All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the strangest, but also one of the most fascinating ideas in the history of philosophy. It comes from a 17th century thinker named Nicholas Malebranche, and it's a theory about how you see the world around you. And trust me, it's going to make you look at, well, everything a little differently.
So what we're doing here is unpacking a 300-year-old puzzle. It's all about the simple act of seeing. And the theory is this: every time you look at a tree, a chair, or even your own hand, you're having an immediate, intimate encounter with God. Now, I know that sounds totally wild, but stick with me, because the logic behind it is actually surprisingly compelling. So, here it is. This is the big one. The central claim laid out by Nicholas Malebranche in just 5 simple words. We see all things in God. It's bold, it's profound, and yeah, I get it, it's a bit of a head-scratcher at first.
So that's the big question, right? What could he possibly mean by that? How can you see a physical object, like a book on your table, in God? And that's exactly what we're going to break down right now.
Okay, so before we get into what Malebranche is saying, we got to be super clear about what he's not saying. This isn't about seeing God's actual essence. It's not the idea that trees and dogs are literally floating around inside God. He's also not an idealist who denies the material world exists, and he's not a pantheist who thinks the world is God. Let's just get all those common mistakes off the table.
The absolute key to unlocking this whole thing is a really important distinction Malebranche makes between what he calls the 2 ingredients of our perception: pure ideas and sensations. For him, these 2 things make up everything we experience.
First up, you've got pure ideas. Think of these as the perfect eternal blueprints for everything. They are the original, unchanging archetypes that exist in the mind of God. So, the perfect idea of a circle, not one you can draw, but the idea of it, or the idea of a tree, or even the idea of space itself, all of these perfect blueprints reside in God.
And then, on the other side, you have sensations. And these are a totally different beast. Sensations are the fleeting, private, subjective experiences that happen inside our own minds. The greenness of grass, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of a song, the sting of a paper cut. Malebranche says none of that stuff is actually out there in the world. It's all just modifications of our soul.
So you see this huge divide, right? It's like a tale of 2 realities. On one hand, you have the pure ideas. They're in God, they're eternal, universal, and they truly represent what things are. On the other hand, you've got our sensations. They're just in our minds, they're fleeting, totally private, and they don't really represent anything outside of us. They couldn't be more different, but you need both to see anything.
Okay, so here's the puzzle. If you've got these perfect, divine ideas over here in God, and our messy, private sensations over here in our minds, how in the world do they come together to let us see something as simple as, say, a tree?
Well, it all starts with something he calls intelligible extension. Now, don't think of this as the physical space around you. It's more like the pure, perfect idea of space itself, the concept of length, width, and depth. And this idea, this divine and invisible canvas, exists eternally in God's mind.
All right, let's walk through it. Say you're looking at a tree. Here's what Malebranche says is happening. First, your mind connects with God. It has to. Then, God reveals this pure idea of space to your mind, this intelligible extension. And here's the wild part. Your mind then takes its own private sensations, like the feeling of green and brown, and basically projects them onto that divine idea. And poof, the combination of God's idea and your sensation is what you perceive as a specific tree.
The best way to think about it is with this metaphor. God provides this universal, invisible canvas. That's the pure idea of space. And our sensations, the colors, the textures, that's the paint. You never actually see the pure canvas itself, right? You only see the very specific picture that your own mind paints onto it. That's how a general idea in God becomes a particular thing you can see.
Okay, I know what you're probably thinking right now. This is a lot. It seems incredibly complicated. Why would anyone come up with such a wild theory for just seeing stuff? Well, Malebranche has a really powerful argument for why this has to be the case.
He starts by asking a question that's actually kind of hard to answer.
Think about it. You have an idea of a perfect circle, right? Or a perfect triangle. But have you ever seen one in the real world? No, of course not. They're all a bit wobbly or imperfect. So, where does that perfect idea actually exist?
He points out that these pure ideas have some really special properties. They're eternal. They've always existed and always will. They're immutable. You can't change the definition of a triangle. They are necessary. A circle has to be the way it is. And they're universal. The idea of a triangle is the same for you, for me, for everyone.
So here's the kicker. He asks, where could something with all those properties, eternal, unchangeable, universal, actually live? It sure can't be in our minds, right? Our minds are, well, they're a mess. We're finite, we make mistakes, our thoughts are changing every single second. How could something so perfect and permanent exist inside something so temporary and flawed?
And that's what leads him to his big, mind-blowing conclusion. There's only one possible home for ideas that are eternal and unchangeable. They have to reside in a mind that is also eternal and unchangeable. And that, for Malebranche, is the mind of God. You see? For him, this isn't just a matter of faith, it's a matter of straight-up logic.
So let's say you buy that. You accept that all these pure ideas are in God. What then? Well, the implications are just huge. This whole thing stops being just a weird theory about vision, and it becomes a whole new way of looking at our place in the universe.
Because really, this isn't just about optics. The whole point for Malebranche is to show our total, constant dependence on God for, everything. This isn't the kind of view where God just created the world and then walked away. No, in this picture, we are plugged into God, moment by moment, for every single thought, every single perception. Without that constant connection, we would be in the dark, literally.
And Malebranche really believed that his philosophy was the ultimate explanation for that famous line from St. Paul. In God we live, move, and have our being. He took that completely literally. We don't just live and move in a physical world created by God. Our very being, our minds, our ability to think and see exists within God.
So let's bring it all back home. What does this all mean for you and me? It means that every single time you look at something, anything, you are directly tapping into the divine mind. Looking at a simple chair isn't just a mundane act anymore. It's this intimate, immediate encounter where God's mind and your mind connect to produce the reality you experience. And that's what I want to leave you with. What if Malebranche was right? What if the world we experience every day, with all its colors, sounds, and textures, is simply our own private, sensory painting on the eternal and perfect blueprint of reality that resides in God? It's a strange way to see for sure, but if it's true, it means the whole world is a kind of divine canvas, and every glance is an encounter with the infinite.